What's going on, everybody? John Impemba here. Fantasy Alarm NFL Week 8 live stream here. I got Andrew Cooper. Coop, it's been a wild week, I think, in terms of potential news here. A lot of players are returning from IR. We might see Rob Gronkowski back this week. And then, of course, everybody's waiting and wondering, what is going on in Dallas? What's happening with Dak Prescott? So there is a lot of news to follow today. There's a lot of matchups we're definitely going to talk about. Targeting. And then, of course, we definitely have your all start sit questions in our Discord. Make sure you get in that live stream QA Discord. Drop your questions in. Let Coop and I answer the questions that you have, who to play this week, and we'll set you guys up for victory. Coop, before we jump into it all, man, how's things going with you?
Good, man. Great. I mean, yeah, this week, the craziness of this week, and just especially during the COVID era in general, it's a lesson that you truly do need to move your Thursday and 1 o'clock guys up into those wide receiver spots or running back spots. Leave that flex open because, I've been guilty of this, in the past being like, oh, yeah, whatever, I'll just leave it. And then news breaks on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning. Every day it's something. So make sure you're doing that. Just, the last thing you want to do is look back and wonder what things could have been if you just did that simple thing that everyone should be doing. There's no excuse,
Yeah, 100% there. And it's all about, like you said, it's about understanding how to set your lineup, not getting locked into it. And there's going to be a lot of interesting questions, I think, surrounding, of course, this Cowboys game, because you and I talked a little bit off air. It's like, if Dak Prescott doesn't play, who do you have to play? Are you playing the skill position players like a Cooper Rush? Not Cooper Rush is the quarterback, obviously, but are you playing a CeeDee Lamb? Are you playing an Amari Cooper or Dalton Schultz? Do you play Zeke? Which, certainly I think Zeke is the one you would want to play of that group. But, how do you handle your lineups knowing that they're not playing till later on, and you got to make your lineup decisions now? What is your take on some of these guys here if Dak doesn't play?
Yeah, even though you accidentally said it, I don't think anyone should ever ask the question, are you starting Cooper Rush, right? He was brutal last year. I'm sure he can throw it up, but you're not going to see like those you're not going to see the chemistry. You're not going to see those like back shoulder fades. A lot of the timing stuff is going to be tough. So, I'm definitely starting Zeke. We talked about that. Tony Pollard's not necessarily a crazy start either against the Giants. I would, a guy like Dalton Schultz, who isn't really a one-on-one route running master anyway. He's probably a guy that's not super impacted by it. His whole gig is just to be forgotten about and find space. So I think he's going to be fine. With the other guys, and you and I talked about this a little brainstorming. I'm looking at once you get down past the wide receiver twos, if you have a top 24 wide receiver, then just go that way.
Right.
Once you get down past that range, you start hitting this group of guys that are kind of in the same boat. And my feeling is lean into the talent at that point, right? So you and I kind of talked about this, but think about Seattle. They have Geno Smith, right? So Do you start Tyler Lockett or Amari Cooper? In that case, where the quarterbacks are both pretty bad, but it's a good matchup for the Cowboys, I'm actually probably still going to go CeeDee Lamb and Amari over somebody like that, right? And there's a number of those guys in that same kind of situation, like Brandon Cooks. That's kind of a tough one. Maybe I would go Cooks, but what are your thoughts on a guy like that?
Yeah, I would have felt a lot better about it if we had Tyrod Taylor at quarterback instead of Davis Mills, because we've seen that offense with Mills, and it just hasn't been good. Tyrod, actually started off the year fantastic. The one game that he ended up getting hurt in week 2, at the time he was 10 of 11 throwing the football. So that offense, I think, was surprising everybody. They won opening week, and then they were putting a competitive game against Cleveland until that injury. If he was in the lineup, I probably would have been a little bit more bullish on someone like Brandon Cooks. That said, understanding the matchup that they're in, the defense that they're facing, he would be a really tough guy to trust, because I don't know if Mills is much better than Rush. I know Rush is not good, but the situation there, I almost would think I would rather take maybe the overall skill of a Lamb and Cooper and just kind of hope. Minnesota's defense isn't very good. Their secondary, especially sort of their weak point there. So maybe Cooks is where I draw that line, of where I would be looking to play this week.
Exactly. Like you just ask yourself that question about the quarterback talent, because at a certain point, all these guys are NFL quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Even the backups are some of the best in the world. We're not talking about Kendall Hinton here. So I'm not starting New York Jets. I'm not, with their quarterback situation. I'm not starting. I'm a little concerned for any of the Browns with what's going on with Baker. Probably not starting any Bears over Cowboys, right? Because I mean, with what we've seen there, so it kind of eliminates a good chunk of the guys. I'm not starting any Lions wide receivers. When you really think of it that way, it's not as crazy of a predicament as it is. And if you have the other guys, the top 24 guys, then it's an easier pick. Like Emmanuel Sanders is a guy that it's much easier to trust Emmanuel Sanders with Josh Allen than it is any of those guys with Cooper Rush, because Emmanuel Sanders has been very good, right. So that's kind of where I'm going with it.
Yeah, you mentioned at some point everybody's an NFL level quarterback. Well, the Jets are starting an NFL level quarterback this week, and Mike White. The Jets are only 11-point home dogs, which I think is kind of surprising considering Houston is a 16-point home dog to the Rams. Buffalo is a 14-point favorite over Miami. I consider, Miami to be a better team than the Jets. We've seen the Bengals, on a run right now. They just, blew up Baltimore. Burrow threw for over 400 yards. Him and Chase are just lighting up the world. They're going to be incredibly popular in DFS this week. Thoughts on like that matchup, not that we're expecting much out of the Jets offense, obviously, but someone like Michael Carter to me has kind of peaked as an interesting play. Something that I've talked a lot about with these teams and rookie running backs is, you kind of want them to lose if you're rooting for the rookie running back to start getting more playing time. We've gone back and forth on this with Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. As long as Denver's staying competitive, Melvin Gordon's going to continue to see the field because the team's trying to win football. The Jets are to a point where, they were never really trying to win football games, but now they're 1-5. They've lost their quarterback. They don't even have Tevin Coleman available anymore. Corey Davis is out. We've seen Michael Carter now get double-digit carries in like 3 or 4 straight weeks. I think he's had 10 or more fantasy points in 4 of the last 5 games he's played. And last week he had 9 targets. And Ty Johnson, for that fact, I think he had 7. So, this is check down city with Mike White. But, where do you fit someone like a Michael Carter into your running back ecosystem this week against Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean, just first on the Chase Burrow thing there, that's something that I've struggled with, in these big tournaments is where do you draw the line between guys that are overexposed versus the chalk, right. And I think for a matchup like this, if it were like one of those matchups where it was the Bengals against a team with a good offense and a bad defense, and the over-under was like 55 points, then I'm like, okay, I got to get him in there. But with an over-under like 43, there's a very real chance that this ends up just being a blowout where the Jets are like, please, make it stop. You know what I mean? Like that the Simpsons meme, stop, he's already dead. Like it 43 points with an 11-point spread. That's right. Vegas saying that it's going to be, just running the ball into the ground. I do like Michael Carter. And, you did mention briefly the Broncos situation. You and me have been harping on this, but I've been really looking into it. And you really need the Broncos to trade Melvin Gordon because as long as he's there, they're going to use him, right? As long as they're still trying to win the division, which I guess technically, the Chiefs are, they're 4-3 or whatever they are now. So it's still a possibility. And when you look at that situation, if you trade him, then you're getting back a pick. If you let him leave, you're likely getting back a decent compensatory pick. So they have to be in a situation where they're thinking, we would rather just have whatever's left of his contract, a few $1 million to roll over to next year. That's how you need them really to decide that they're done. So it's kind of a tough situation. I wouldn't bank on them doing it. So unfortunately, it's probably going to be a split for as long as for the rest of the year. It's hard to say that a team just gives up on a veteran. They like Melvin.
Yeah,
he's playing well.
Yeah, he is playing well. We've seen word earlier today that Stephon Gilmore expected to be activated by the Carolina Panthers. We have Atlanta, at home this week. They're giving 3. Calvin Ridley's had a tough season. Yet to crack, I think, 80 yards receiving. The targets have been there. He just had his 2nd touchdown catch of the year last week. But, if you're looking at Atlanta in this matchup against, Carolina, who's kind of reeling a little bit, now 3-4. They had a bench Sam Darnold last week. I know they're going to go back to him this week. But, things not looking great on their side. This initially looked like a good matchup to target for the Atlanta side. But, where do you see, Stephon Gilmore, Calvin Ridley, and I guess this Atlanta offense playing today?
I tried to warn people before the season that Calvin Ridley might be being drafted a little too high. And my reason on that was last year, people talked about the games where Julio was out. Well, in those games, they really didn't face top cornerbacks, right? So I was always concerned that in every single game that Julio played, the top cornerback for the other team was on Julio, right? The Marshawn Lattimores, the James Bradburys. In the one game where we did see Calvin Ridley without Julio, it was against where they faced the top corner. It was against Jair Alexander, and Calvin Ridley caught exactly 0 passes in that game. So I was a little bit concerned that this year, even with more targets, he was going to face stiffer competition, right? And that's kind of what we're seeing now with Gilmore. Being out of football and not really playing, not really practicing. That does make you prone to slipping up. It's such a fine-tuned sport, especially cornerback, which is the most difficult position in the game, in my opinion, outside of quarterback, I guess. But you're trying to do what they're doing without knowing what they're doing, running backwards. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't necessarily say that that this matchup is terrible for the Falcons. I don't think Gilmore really changes that. And also, if you look at this Panthers defense, people are saying, oh, you can't really pass against them, they're letting up 200 yards a game. Well, when you look at some of the good matchups they've had, the tough matchups, the Cowboys, Dak Prescott threw 4 touchdowns, Kirk Cousins, even with the team rushing for like 200 yards or 198 yards or something, he threw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kirk Cousins did. So I'm not necessarily ruling out Matt Ryan or Pitts or Calvin Ridley. I'm starting those guys where I have them.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good point as well. I've seen people wondering, 2 years removed, Gilmore being a defensive player of the year, but I've said he hasn't played this year. So, I don't think he's going to be out there playing every defensive snap. And who knows? He's coming off an injury, right? He missed most of the end of last year with this injury, missed all of this year kind of with this injury and holding out. I don't think he's going to be completely ready to go. Good. And before we get into the start sit questions, are there any other matchups that you're targeting or anything else you want to see this week? You do a lot of what I'm looking for content, over at Fantasy Alarm with your Coop Scoop series here. What's one thing or 1 or 2 things that you're looking for in these matchups this week?
Yeah, so there's some big ones. I really want to see. I think this is kind of the last straw for me with Evan Ingram. He's going up against the Chiefs, which is a good matchup. This guy's banged up. If he doesn't really do anything, then it's he's probably not going to, because they're going to be getting more guys back. Tyler Bigby is another guy that's in that situation for me. This is a perfect matchup against the worst tight end team in the league. He's been kind of inconsistent. If he doesn't go big here, then you really need to be planning to get somebody else going. Beyond that, there's a few other situations that I think are kind of interesting in terms of running backs, right? I want to see if Elijah Mitchell is the real deal. I want to see the Eagles running backs, what's going on there. I want to see if D'Ernest Johnson gets half a role, because that's a team that likes using 2 backs. D'Ernest Johnson, I would rather have, if D'Ernest Johnson is getting like a Kareem Hunt type split, I'd rather have that guy than maybe running backs for half the teams in the league, right? Mm-hmm. And in the Eagles-Lions game, one thing I really would hope to see, it doesn't happen all the time, but I'd love to see the ball just get chucked up to Devonta Smith, and there be a pass interference in the end zone, and the team sends one back down to the 1-yard line to score, and we get to see who that is. Because if it's Kenneth Gainwell, it's wheels up, right? Until Miles Sanders gets back. So it's that doesn't happen often, but I love plays like that where you get to see what the coach is thinking, because you get to send whoever you want down there,
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's the one thing, again, another popular question we got this week, because we're all starved for running back depth. Sanders goes down and everybody's throwing fab money on, Boston Scott and Gainwell if they were available in your league. Even had somebody asked me about the reports that Jordan Howard was working with the first team. Don't want anything really to do with Jordan Howard. And my answer really to all of this has been, we weren't happy with the usage of Miles Sanders, right? They weren't using him enough for him to be really fantasy relevant. I understand if you take him out of the equation, maybe somebody else is going to step into that role. But is it going to be any less frustrating? You don't know which one's really going to go. Boston Scott stepped in there as the early down running back last week. He did run for a touchdown. Gainwell got a handful of carries and even scored a touchdown receiving. You definitely can start one of them, but the floor for both of them is 3 fantasy points, right? You don't really know who's going to be the one that's going to actually step into the role, and if they're even going to run that much anyways. You have Jalen Hurts, who likes to run it himself a lot of the time. So, I understand the matchup against Detroit this week, but it's going to be tough, and you may be disappointed depending on which way you go. They're probably better off as GVP dark throws in DFS than relying them to be like an RB2 for you this week. So
right, yeah, I mean that's a situation that we all kind of knew with the mobile quarterbacks. Like for years, we've been thinking, oh, they don't dump it down as much, and in theory that makes a lot of sense, right? That they see a guy like if I'm Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara is standing next to me, I want to get the ball to him because he's a superior athlete. If I'm Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts, I'm thinking, oh great, I got a blocker, and that was actually mathematically proven by Andrew Erickson. I think he was at Fantasy Dad at the time. I don't know where he is now, maybe Pro Football Focus, but he actually did the math. He crunched the numbers and he basically showed that mobile quarterbacks throw it to the running back less, and we already know from Scott Barrett's math that throwing to the running back is more valuable than a handoff in every format. Even in standard formats, a reception is more valuable than a carry, just because the yards per reception.
Just the upside of getting more yards.
Exactly.
Definitely understand that. All right, good. We got our questions time to fill up. Let's shift out. Of course, as news breaks this morning, we'll have it. We got our producer Matt Sells in our ear, letting us know if anything crazy with inactives, breaks, or news. So we'll have it for you. But now let's jump into live stream QA channel. Let's hit the one that came in last night. Somebody prepared, Coop. They got a few questions here. A wide receiver, a flex, and tight end help. Definitely speaking to the right guy there. Need a wide receiver. Need one. T.Y. Hilton, Jerry Jeudy, Laviska Shenault, Khalif Raymond, or Sterling Shepard.
So first off, I want to say thank you, UmpFast, for getting your question in there early. And then I want to say, UmpFast, that is a ridiculously difficult question. So what are you doing? So actually, for me, it's not that hard. I think I'm starting Sterling Shepard if he's healthy. I mean, he's just been a target hog. He's looked good, which, I'm not a big film guy, but that does matter. I mean, there's guys out there who Cole Beasley never looks amazing. He just kind of puts it on paper. That's a guy that Sterling Shepard's passed the eye test for me, so I'm going there.
Yeah, and obviously the one tough thing with that is they play Monday, so and while everything is pointing towards him playing this week, there is still some I guess there's always that, hey, he's on the pregame warm-up field and he tweaks the hammy, and then what are you doing? So I like the talent there for him. If you're worried at all about that, I think I'm going Laviska Shenault this week. I mean, Judy's expected to play, but I can't imagine first week off IR, especially after being held out of practice on Friday due to soreness, that he's going to be a full go snap share wise. T.Y. Hilton, the same thing, missed last week due to injury, first week back here again. Can't imagine he's going full. Khalif Raymond, do you ever really want to start Khalif Raymond confidently? So I think Shenault would probably be my safe play, and Shepard is the upside guy if you're willing to risk either the zero or if you have a backup. Maybe you get Slayton or somebody available on your waiver wire that you can flip in there. First flex in a standard, Khalil Herbert, Zach Moss, Antonio Gibson, or Devontae Booker.
I mean, I think you can't go away from Khalil Herbert right now the way he's running. I mean, nobody put up more than 60 yards rushing against the Bucs all season. They were letting up 58 yards a week. I mean, our Patriots, we had negative rushing yards against them, I'm pretty sure, as a team. So he goes out and has 100 yards against that team. You can't go away from that right now. So Khalil Herbert for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one as well. The running volume for him, I think last week sort of secured it. I was worried about what was going to happen when Damian Williams came back, but they didn't give him the football. They gave it to Herbert, so I'm good with that one as well. And then tight end help. I mean, you're the guy for this one. Try not to put your biases behind us here. Pat Freiermuth, Tyler Conklin, Ricky Seals-Jones, or Evan Ingram.
So, yeah, all biases aside, I'm not going to say Evan Ingram for this one. For me, this is actually fairly easy, especially in standard. Ricky Seals-Jones.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing 100% of the snaps, right? So, why not run him out there? And they got Denver's defense. So, I'm with you.
He's playing 100% of the snaps. And not only that, but in the first games, he only played 18%, 10%, 15% of the snaps, right? So, he's basically only played 4 games. If you look at not just red zone targets, but end zone targets, which are the most valuable targets in the game, bar none, right? There's a bunch of guys tied with 4. There's only one player that has 5, Ricky Seals-Jones. So only in basically playing 4 games, he's gotten 5 end zone targets. So in standard, that for me, that's a slam dunk play.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of potential with him there as well. Next question here. It's that question we had earlier. If Dak is out, do you Darius Slayton slide ahead of Amari Cooper in their rankings?
Yeah, that is like right at the line that we kind of talked about, and I think that I'm still going with Amari Cooper, because you don't have like it'd be different if it was like I said, Darius Slayton in a Emmanuel Sanders role playing with Josh Allen, but I don't necessarily love Daniel Jones. I mean, it is a pretty good matchup with the Chiefs, and it is the night game, so the Cowboys game is the night game, so you can kind of wait on news. I wouldn't, you can wait and see what happens, see if we get more news on Dak by the end of today. But I think I'm starting Amari Cooper if I can. I mean, what do you think, John? Is where do you draw the line there? This is a tough, that's a very tough.
This is like the biggest question, right? I mean, fortunately, like you mentioned, they can wait. If Dak plays, you play Cooper, no problem. But if he is out, I almost feel like I want to go Slayton. I mean, even with Tony and Shepard likely to play, Slayton has always been like a top target there of Daniel Jones. They like to take shots downfield. We think they're going to be playing from behind as double-digit underdogs. They're going up against Kansas City. That defense has been bad. We could easily see Slayton go for like 3 catches, 80 yards, and touchdown. I don't know what Cooper Rush is going to do, in this matchup, even against, Vikings defense that's like, nothing special. But like, Cooper Rush has not been good. He didn't look good during the preseason. Didn't look very good last year as well. That's why we saw a lot of like Ben DiNucci. There was just nothing really there. And a lot of people were like upset that Dallas didn't have like a better backup quarterback this year. Because of what Rush has played. So I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if like you're looking for volume, I guess, for Amari Cooper this week. I don't think he's going to score, and he hasn't been playing well with Dak. So like. Yeah. I think I have to go Slayton, truthfully, unless Dak plays. That's just, I trust Daniel. I trust the quarterbacks, right? So I trust Daniel Jones getting the football to Darius Slayton more than I do Cooper Rush making Amari Cooper fantasy relevant after he struggled to do so with an all-pro quarterback.
Yeah. And, I guess you also have the luxury of kind of looking at your matchup and seeing what you need, too. I think that Amari Cooper has the floor of being Amari Cooper. Like, he's going to catch passes today. He's going to catch a couple, but who knows what they're going to be. So maybe if it's, if you have the game in hand, you can go with Amari. If you need upside, like you're getting crushed, you might as well just throw Slayton in there and hope for that Monday miracle,
Yep. No, 100%. I agree with you on that one. Half PPR, Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, or Samaje Perine versus the Jets.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're going with, if you're looking at all backs that are in a timeshare, then I'm just going to go with Melvin Gordon personally. Like he's catching more passes, he's playing more snaps than Javonte Williams. He's the safest play of that group, I think, just based on volume. He flat out gets the ball more than Javonte Williams, and he scored more fantasy points.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is looking at some of the player props from today, Coop. Javonte Williams' receptions prop is actually more favored than Melvin Gordon's receptions prop. Gordon is plus money to catch, I think, 2.5. Well, Javonte Williams is like minus 120, I think, to go over the 2.5. So there, Vegas at least is expecting Williams to potentially be more involved. And we saw last week, Javonte Williams against Cleveland. Actually, while you mentioned that Gordon played more snaps, I think Williams was the more productive running back in that duo. So, again, I'm hoping eventually, that we get more clarity. You and I both have shares of Melvin Gordon. I do have Javonte Williams shares, though. So, I want some sort of movement here. Like you mentioned, the trade deadline's coming up. If Denver loses this week, maybe Melvin Gordon's on the trade block. And now, like, he moves. They can trade him to a team that needs a running back, and they can settle in on Javonte Williams as their lead back. So let's hope they have that one. Need one, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, Sterling Shepard.
DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, Sterling Shepard. Wow, that's quite a crew. First of all, I would start looking for a trade partner. If those are the guys that you're potentially sitting some of them, you look like you're in a position that you could do a 2-for-1, possibly to get a running back or just like, those guys are great, but all of them. So if I'm only starting one of those guys, I think I'm personally going to go with DJ Moore. probably going to steer away from Calvin Ridley just because, you have the luxury of avoiding that Stephon Gilmore matchup. We know he is a guy that does shadow, so that could get a little scary. They're probably not going to put him on Kyle Pitts. They're not going to put him on Russell Gage. So that could get a little spooky there. Shepard's interesting in, I'm assuming this is still half PPR. He's more interesting in full PPR, but I think I'm going more. But what do you think, John? That is a close one. Like I said,
I'm going to go DJ Moore here as well. I think that's just the better spot to sort of trust the way it's going to be going there. So that's I'm going to go DJ Moore in this matchup as well. Even though Sam Darnold is certainly been a little bit suspect, I just think that. The volume for him in this matchup against Atlanta for me is far more appealing. Need 2 standard scoring. Chuba Hubbard. I'm going to guess this is Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen.
Chuba Hubbard, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen. I mean, I think in standard, I always skew towards the running back in standard. I know you do as well, typically, right, John?
Yeah.
So I'm going to start Chuba, and I'm going to start Keenan Allen. I think Keenan Allen's, I've been looking at it. He is one of my biggest buy targets. And I said this before that I don't really trade a whole lot, but in this case, I have thrown out offers for Keenan Allen. I think his usage is good. He was lining up in the slot and then moving to, flanker for 2 wide sets. I think that it's only a matter of time till he starts having some big games. I don't think conditions have really changed much from last year to this year in terms of Keenan Allen. It's just that 7 games, is a small sample size. It feels like a lot in fantasy football, but in every other sport, that's nothing. You know what I mean? Some guys, baseball, they don't get a hit for a week. You know what I mean, or a month. It's like in this situation, he's getting the usage. The targets have kind of been there. He just needs the right matchup, and I think this week it could be a little bit of a better matchup for him if the Patriots decide to take away Mike Williams, who's been the better wide receiver. So I like Keenan Allen. I'm looking to buy him wherever I can.
Yep. Need 2.5 PPR. Khalil Herbert, Zach Moss, Alex Collins, or Allen Robinson. Coop, what in the world are we doing with Allen Robinson these days?
Yeah, man. I mean, if I have that situation, I consider myself needing one because I'm definitely putting Khalil Herbert in. It's like he's entering that must-start range. If he can run like that against the best team in the league, he can run like that against anybody. So Khalil Herbert's in for me. With the rest of those guys, it's tough. I mean, the Seahawks basically gave 3 different running backs 20 snaps this week. It was super annoying. It was, Collins, I think, had 22 and led, but the other guys were like 20 and 21 and 20. Like they all played. So I don't know if I trust him. I think I still like Allen Robinson over those guys. I mean, what do you think, John?
I don't know. Allen Robinson is a wide receiver 58 in PPR scoring. You can't play Collins. I think I would go Moss and Herbert, truthfully. And Moss catches a few balls and maybe he punches one in, and we're expecting a big lead here from Buffalo. They won 35-0 in that first game, and Moss actually had 2 rushing touchdowns in that game. So it's Herbert and Moss for me. That's where I'm going with it.
I think that's fair, and I like to hear you say that because you were so mean to me before the season for liking Zach Moss.
Well, I don't think – I mean, it hasn't worked out. He hasn't been great, but I'm talking about in this particular matchup, I think Moss is certainly something that can work out here.
I'll take it however I get it. You pick it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm sure you will. If Dak is out, would you start Cortland Sutton, or I imagine this is Keenan Allen? If it's Allen Robinson, definitely no. But if it's Keenan Allen over CeeDee Lamb, I would probably – I mean, you won't know ahead of time, but so – all things on the table, would you rather play Keenan Allen, Cortland Sutton, or CeeDee Lamb this week? I
mean, I'm starting Keenan Allen, like just in general. I have Keenan Allen as my wide receiver 11 or 12, I believe, for this week. I like Allen. I like his matchup. I like his usage. We like the quarterback. I mean, everything about that situation is pretty good. So that's who I'm going with. But
yeah, I'm with you. I think Keenan Allen. Cortland Sutton's a little bit obviously appealing, given the secondary of Washington, but I'm with you on that one. I think Keenan Allen's where I'm going to go. Half PPR, Devonta Smith, Sterling Shepard.
Sterling Shepard for me. He's just he's a guy that is going to be force-fed targets. I mean, they're dogs against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are not good versus the pass. I just don't see a world where Sterling Shepard doesn't get a lot of targets. They don't really even have a guy that they can just use to take away Sterling Shepard, So I like that matchup. What do you think?
Yeah, no, Sterling Shepard's where I'm going to be going there as well. Now, listen, I like Devonta Smith a lot, and it's this matchup against the Lions. So there's definitely some appeal there, but Jalen Hurts, man. I mean, he's had 3 straight weeks of completing less than 60% of his passes. He had a week the other day of 44%, I think it was, completion rate. I think there's a lot of upside with Smith. So, Shepard is probably the safer play. Smith is more of your boom or bust play. I guess it depends maybe on your matchup. If you're, projected to lose, not that we like to put a lot of faith in these scoring projections over on the platforms, but maybe that's the way I would lean here for sure. Shepard is going to be the number 1 receiver, assuming he plays against Kansas City. Go that direction. 2 out of 3, DK Metcalf, Cortland Sutton, CeeDee Lamb.
Because Metcalf's in that same boat, right? That we see CeeDee Lamb in, where his quarterback is just not great, but at least they've been playing together for a little bit. I like Metcalf. I like Metcalf and Sutton. I have Sutton in a lot of places. He's just been a solid player, and this isn't necessarily a bad matchup for him either. So I would just play it safe and start Metcalf and Sutton since we don't know what we're getting at quarterback with Lamb.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, you got to play. I mean, listen, Metcalf showed last week that he doesn't need good quarterbacking or even a lot of volume to get there. He broke off an 80-yard play, and that is well within his realm of outcomes. So even in a matchup here, they're going up against Jacksonville too. So if Geno Smith can't beat a Jacksonville defense a few times to DK Metcalf, then I don't even know anymore. I know he's not great, but Jacksonville's defense isn't very good. Carson Wentz or Daniel Jones?
I like Daniel Jones, man. It never feels great starting him, but he's, the matchup's good. He's a guy that runs the ball. So especially if it's a 4-point passing league, I like him there. But I mean, you're the quarterback guy, John. So what do you think?
I'm going Daniel Jones as well. The fact that he's getting Tony back and Shepard and they have Slayton. I like this matchup for Carson Wentz. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like they may lean a little bit more towards the running game. Now, Wentz does have 2 passing touchdowns in each of the last 4 weeks. So, he's definitely trending in the right direction, but Jones can do it with his legs. He's a mobile quarterback, and we're expecting them to have to play from behind, and, they don't really have much of a running game there. So I'm going to run with Daniel Jones myself. Let's see. What else have we got coming down here? Need 2. Eckler, Mitchell, Moss, Darrell Williams, and a PPR.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is another one where I feel like you need one, Rowdy, and that's Ann, right? So, and Eckler, you got to start him, right, John?
Oh yeah, 100%. So you definitely play Eckler, and I'm leaning Eli Mitchell too in this one. I know Mitchell doesn't catch the football, but he gets the volume. We saw that last week. Hasty came back and didn't cut into any of the carry workload. He was just used purely as a pass catching option there. He ran for 100 yards and scored in Mitchell. So yeah, give me Mitchell this week against Chicago.
Yeah, and the thing that people kind of forget because of the whole Shanahan thing and how annoying he is that, and this is what really makes the situation annoying, is that offensive line is one of the best in football. I'm talking like Trent Williams and the other tackle there, Mike McGlinchey, were both top 5 on PFF in run blocking for any lineman. Think about that. 32 teams, 5 linemen per team. Both these tackles were top 5 in run blocking. So that's what makes it so annoying, but also so tantalizing, is if someone can get that full role, I mean, the plays are there to be made. The yards before contact is available. So I like Elijah Mitchell.
Yep, I think Mitchell is definitely a solid option there. Need 1 in a PPR. This one's kind of interesting. Van Jefferson, Russell Gage, J.D. McKissick. I say it's interesting because, Coop, I mean, you do the snap counts article over at Fantasy Alarm. Van Jefferson played 94% of the snaps against Detroit last week. Deshaun Jackson is no longer really with the team. They've agreed to search for a trade partner. He had 7 targets last week. He caught a touchdown pass. We've been waiting for Van Jefferson to break out. I know you're always a guy that's like, well, he's not the number 2 target on his team. He may not even be number 3, but 94% of the snaps is definitely something you want to pay attention to. And then you're looking at, Russell Gage, J.D. McKissick. Like, those guys aren't really top targets on their team either. So, to me, I kind of think Van Jefferson's an interesting option here.
Yeah, that's it. In a vacuum, you don't, you want your guy to be a focal point of the offense, but none of these guys are, so I don't really trust Gage. He's kind of as he's kind of always been, he's kind of that ancillary piece that goes into that role that they're not really focusing on, right? So it's like you have Pitts and Ridley as the real two wide receivers. Let's be real.
And Cordell Patterson even, is working its way. And I do have Gage in some GPP lineups this week because the Gilmore effect potentially on Ridley for a little bit. And Gage did come back last week. You saw a decent snap share and even kind of touchdown. But I'm going to go Van Jefferson. I think there's potential for him to really break out now that he's seeing just a monster snap share there. Next one here, we got need 2.5 PPR, Khalif Raymond, Tyler Boyd, Jerry Jeudy, Darius Slayton.
Okay, so I can't trust Tyler Boyd right now. He's just not running high enough A-dot routes. He's coming off the field in 2 wide receiver sets. Khalif Raymond, again, another guy where he's playing a ton of snaps, but he's just not a talented player. So I think I'm going to go with, I like Darius Slayton. I mean, he's in a position to get targets. Again, that's a shootout game where we say, earlier we were like, oh, maybe if the over-under was 50 points. I think the over-under for that game is, what is it, John? It's 52?
Yeah, excuse me. I just had it. It's 52.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to go Darius Slayton there out of those guys, and then I like Jerry Jeudy. Give yourself a shot at upside. They wouldn't. I don't think they'd be activating him and deploying him if he wasn't ready to play football. So right. I mean, let's go. Fire it up.
Yeah, 100%. Next one, need 2 in a PPR: Higgins, Waddle, Shepard, Jeudy.
Yeah, so this one's different for you with Jeudy. Is that here you're not looking at like a low upside play like Boyd or a complete dart throw touchdown dependent only guy like Khalif Raymond. Here you have real options. So in this situation, I'm going with T. Higgins and I'm going with Jalen. I'm not. Judy's the odd man out of that group because you don't need to do it this week. But so I'm definitely going T. Higgins. What do you think? You go Waddle or Shep?
Shepard. Yeah. I like the target share for Waddle, but I've seen reports that Devonte Parker may play today. Parker was seeing 8-9 targets when he was in the lineup earlier this year. He's been out for a while. Do those targets take away from Gesicki? Do they take away from Waddle? They're going to have to throw. So there is at least that. But you're in Buffalo against a really good defense. So give me Shepard of that crew.
Devonte Parker falls in that category of guys that was like I was mentioning with Shepard, that he looks good. Like earlier this year against our Patriots, man, he looked really good. Like he was going high pointing balls. He looks like he's, really, he had a slow start to his career, but now he's really developed into a true, he's a professional, so I like the way Parker looks, and I think that's a good play, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. So you have, who do you have in this one? We have Shepard and who?
I have Higgins. Yeah, Higgins, I like Higgins. I like 15 targets last week. What do you?
Yeah, Jets matchup, and I think it's a this he's targeted a lot in the end zone as well, which is what I like about Higgins. Another one need 2 in PPR: Devonta Smith, Amari Cooper. I think I'm going to assume that's Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah.
James Toney's the boxer. Kadarius Toney or Damian Harris.
In that matchup, I definitely picked James Toney.
James Lights Out Toney used to be a really good puncher,
Oh, yeah. In Fight Night, he had a big hook. I used to play that game. And how many teams do you have? Seriously, like you have a more starts.
Ann has a ton of teams. For sure, she's out
there. For sure. I would, for me, I wish it was. If it was half PPR, I would easily say Damian Harris, and I might still say Damian Harris. Kind of hard to go away with him.
Dead last in DVOA against the run, the Chargers. So
okay, so let's go with Damian Harris, and that is tough. I mean, I think in this situation, you probably do have enough options that you can shy away from Amari Cooper. With that group, I'd be looking to try and do a 2-for-1 trade too, because you have
a lot of options. I'll say this. Having Toney and Cooper available to you is actually sort of a favorable position because if Dak plays, you play Cooper. If Dak is out, you just play Toney against the Chiefs. I think those are very viable options. Now, we both like Emmanuel Sanders a ton, but this is going to expect to be a blowout. It's a 14-point spread. If Sanders doesn't get in the end zone this week, even in a PPR, does he get the volume to really pay off? The one thing I did talk a lot about Josh Allen this week is we generally know where those points are coming in Buffalo. While I said Zach Moss ran for 2 scores against Miami earlier this year, for the most part, if they're scoring touchdowns, it's all Josh Allen scoring touchdowns. He's had 7 total touchdowns the last 2 weeks, 1 rushing, 6 passing. So, Sanders definitely has upside. But I kind of lean like wanting Tony, truthfully, I think, in this matchup against. I mean, he was fantastic in the run that he got. Shepard and Slayton are far from, foolproof. So I think I'm going to go Tony and Damian Harris here. And, if Dak plays, would you play Cooper or Tony?
Yeah, I think that's actually not only the smart way, but the fun way to approach it, right? Like if Dak plays, you go Amari Cooper. And if he doesn't, then you kind of get the opportunity to start Kadarius Toney, which is the fun play, right?
Right.
And with a team like this, you root for all the guys to go off. You don't root against your own guys. You root for Devonta Smith. You root for Manny Sanders. And if they have big games this week, then you turn and try and do a 2-for-1 trade, package those guys up, and improve. Just get the best player in the deal, because with leagues like this and teams like this, that's the perfect way to consolidate, and you'll still clearly have plenty left over on the bench. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, I'm in full on agreement with you there as well. Next question, Sutton or Evans this week? Another interesting spot because Mike Evans is dealing with Marshawn Lattimore, and they have quite the storied history battling back and forth with one another. Evans has certainly gotten the better at times, but I think largely this has been a Lattimore win. And then you have Sutton in a good matchup here against Washington.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get Mike Evans against Marshawn Lattimore, there's always the risk that Evans will get himself thrown out of the game, right? I feel like that's happened like twice now, maybe 3 times. It's like, it reminds me a lot of the old Cortland Sutton versus, Cortland Finnegan versus Andre Johnson, where it's like every game they'd have their hands in each other's face masks, pulling each other's helmets off, throwing punches. But for me, I think I still can't go away from Mike Evans with Antonio Brown out. I think he's just such a talented player, and he's such a dependable player. And Tom Brady, I don't think he really cares. This isn't a Jameis Winston situation where, like 2019, if Evans played Lattimore or James Bradbury, Winston just never threw it over there. Tom Brady doesn't do that. Like Tom Brady, if he sees that as a challenge, and I don't think it's going to be a problem for him.
We have breaking news.
Oh boy, how breaking!
Calvin Ridley is out today.
Whoa. Okay. Well, so every spot where we said to start him, you can go ahead and sit him now. Makes a lot of the start sits easier, and people are probably going to have to adjust their questions here, because there's probably going to be a lot more people needing to start lesser quality players. So get those questions in there now. Calvin Ridley questions.
Calvin Ridley out due to a personal matter for today. Wild news. Also, Jamal Williams is ruled out. If you are a DeAndre Swift truther, all systems go for Swift today. He was one of my favorite plays of the week in DFS. No Williams now dealing with, to contend with. That there's going to be all of the snaps should be going to DeAndre Swift this week. But the really news, reset, right? Russell Gage, Cordero Patterson, Kyle Pitts in this matchup now against maybe even Mike Davis. I mean, like, if Ridley is out, do they revert Patterson back to a receiver and they use Mike? Not that we love Mike Davis, but I mean, like, everything is going to be shifting now with news that Calvin Ridley's not playing. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that means Pitt more wide receiver snaps for Pitts. I mean, Hayden Hurst is now on the DFS radar, even,
Hayden Hurst,
we've seen him score. I mean, he had the ridiculous game a couple games ago where he scored, but every pass he caught ended up with him losing the ball somehow. Like, he literally fumbled like twice, dropped the touchdown after he caught it. It was stripped out of his hands. He had one later that he caught it, went out of bounds. It was stripped out of his hands. Like, he's just a kind of a confusing player. But I mean, in DFS, I think it's worth a dart throw. In any managed leagues, you got better options.
Wayne Gallman's also ruled out. So I mean, like, if you're looking maybe for if there was any potential for like other carries to get taken away. I mean, not that Gallman's been impacted, but just another guy that's not available for Atlanta today. Makes me think that we could very much see maybe Davis here against his former team a little bit more. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been ruled out. Not that I think we were really looking to play him, but OBJ and Landry a little bit more secure there. I know it's Pittsburgh, so not exactly the greatest of matchups, but a guy that a lot of people were seemingly high on coming to the year. He's been ruled out already.
Let me do a quick plug here. If our Fantasy Alarm, the inactives page is now live. Is that what you're on, John?
Yeah, I'm on the Fantasy Alarm.
So that is one of the best pages in fantasy football. I swear, there's no one else that kind of really puts it into a nice, easy, visible layout like that. So definitely go check that out. It has the teams that they're both teams side by side with the over under, and it shows exactly who's inactive and who isn't official. I love that page.
Yeah, 100%. So definitely some notable names there. The Ridley one, obviously, now sending shockwaves through the fantasy space. Again, I was wondering about the play in general, given the matchup here, but now that he is out, we got to rearrange some things. And Russell Gage is a fantastic value in DFS this week. I think now in line for more targets at the very least, so could move quite into the maybe the chalkier spot there. I'm not really seeing any other impact players, at least of yet, being ruled in or out that we haven't. Yeah, right. I mean, Julio was ruled out the other day, but yeah, he's definitely a name worth watching if you paying attention to. If you haven't already noticed, Julio Jones has been ruled out for today. It's AJ Brown. It's going to be Derrick Henry, and largely as the workload there. I don't have interest in like any other receiving options on this team. It's a matchup against the Colts, who I know they've been exploitable at times, but I like that we've seen a lot of good things out of AJ Brown. So he's looking healthy and good to go there. So
yeah, Deshaun Jackson's inactive, as we kind of mentioned there. Wow, the money line for the Rams is 1,200, huh?
Yeah, no.
That's insane.
1,200 to win 100. So don't make the bet. I don't know.
Don't do it.
All right, let's get back to these questions here. So I'm sure that's now changed everything. Let me spin it back to you now, because we just had that question about Russell Gage, Van Jefferson, Russell Gage, J.D. McKissic. Knowing what we know now,
I still like Van Jefferson. He's playing the full snap share. Deshaun Jackson's not even active.
Right.
So and they don't really with Johnny Munt out, they don't really do 2 tight end sets anymore either. It's going to be 11 personnel all day long today. So
yep, we went Sutton over Mike Evans, right?
I liked
get to it, right?
No, we did that one. I liked Mike Evans.
Mike Evans, okay. I guess I'll take quarterback talent. I'll take Tom Brady there.
Yeah.
Trevor or Daniel? I'm gonna assume this is Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Or Daniel Jones.
Yes, and I think we both agree that Daniel Jones is he's borderline QB1 territory this week. Might be back end QB1 where I have him in kind of ranked. Daniel Jones, he's in a good spot. He hasn't been bad either, and he's playing the Chiefs, who they've never been a problem to throw against, and the offense, when it works, gets you the ball back pretty quickly.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there. And the next question that she's got here is Tony or Gainwell in a PPR?
So I like Tony. I think he's more exciting, more fun, and we don't know what Gainwell is going to be yet. Like I was saying earlier, that pass interference in the end zone could be Boston Scott as the goal line back, and now what's the difference between Kenneth Gainwell and J.D. McKissic? And now you have the mobile quarterback who doesn't like throwing it to the running back much. It's really kind of hampering you. So I'd rather just go Tony in that situation.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go in that direction as well. Full point PPR, doesn't matter for a quarterback, but Burrow or Herbert?
Man, I think you got to go Herbert. You got to go with the guy that, the guy that's been the guy. But I mean, Burrow also has had 2 touchdowns. He's thrown at least 2 touchdowns every single game this year. So I don't know. What do you think, John?
I think I'm going to go with Burrow here. I know the Jets defense has. Do you know the Jets defense has allowed? I think it's like the second fewest receiving touchdowns this year because everybody's just running on them.
Right,
But they're terrible.
Crazy.
That being said, I think Burrow is going to connect with Chase here today. So give me Burrow, and then we have the sit 2 of Metcalf, Chase, Thielen, Kupp, Brown, and Devonta. I mean, you're not sitting Cooper Kupp. You're not sitting Jamar Chase. So the question, I guess, here is Thielen, Metcalf, Brown, or Smith. I'm probably sitting Metcalf and Smith. I'm playing Chase, Thielen, Kupp, and Brown.
Yeah, that's it. You can't sit Thielen in a game like this tonight because the over-under in that game is also like 50 points, right? And it's, Trayvon Diggs is probably going to be keying on Justin Jefferson, making things a little easier for Thielen. I don't think they would. I don't see a situation where they would just take Thielen away. It doesn't seem to make sense at this point in their careers. So Chase, Thielen, Kupp for sure, and that's another team. Make a trade. Yeah,
6 point pass TD, Bridgewater or Tannehill.
Oh man, so Bridgewater is kind of one of my sneaky plays. I like him more as a DFS play, but he's getting Judy back. He's got a matchup versus the Washington, which Washington is they're letting up 300 passing yards a game on average. That's the average. This team is letting up the most passing yards to any team, but I think I still lean Tannehill 6-point passing. John, I got to defer to you, man. You're the quarterback guy.
Give me Tannehill. I Bridgewater, began the year like gangbusters. He was like among the league leaders in air yards. Those numbers have basically been cut in half over the last 4 weeks. And I know Judy coming back, maybe he's helped him. I don't know how much Judy's going to play. He might see 30% of the snaps. He was held out due to soreness on Friday. Right, like this is his first game back. I just don't know if he's going to all of a sudden see 70% of a snap share. So. I'm going to go with Tannehill on this one and hope he and Brown connect big time in their matchup there. So need a 1.5 point PPR and a flex. Mari Cooper, Myles Gaskins, Kenneth Gainwell, and Marquez Callaway.
I'm still shook by that Judy news. I actually did not hear that he was held out due to soreness. He had an ankle injury, right?
Who did that? Sorry, who had
Judy? Did Judy had the high ankle sprain, right?
Yeah. You didn't see. That's why I was saying I was skeptical on him. Yeah, he didn't practice on Friday due to soreness. Yeah.
Man, that's no good, man. The high ankle sprain is basically like a broken leg. You know what I mean? Like you get it twists your shin bone to the point where you get like hairline fractures. That's why it's such a bad injury, and that scares me. Sit 2, so I'm not sitting Khalil Herbert. I would consider that's the one we're on right now. The sit 2 though.
No. We're on 0.5 point PPR, 1 flex. Cooper, Gaskin, Gainwell, or Callaway.
1 flex. Okay. In that situation, I'm going to start Amari Cooper. I just don't like the upside for any of those other guys compared to him. In DFS, I actually like Marquez Callaway this week a little bit, going up against Tampa Bay secondary. But Cooper's probably the safer play. In a PPR, I need to sit 2: Khalil Herbert, Robbie Anderson, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, Jamison Crowder. It probably has to be Patrick and Crowder. Gotta sit Crowder. You can't start Crowder. Yeah, I would start the first 3 guys there.
Yep, and Anderson's target volume has to work for him at some point. Standard need 2: Allen, Lamb, Sutton, Thielen.
All right, we got to wrap at these. I didn't realize. Time flies when you're having fun,
buddy. Flies, man.
Yeah, okay, so I'm starting Thielen for sure with this matchup and Keenan Allen.
Thielen and Keenan Allen already. I'm with you on that one as well. PPR flex: Jacoby Myers, Alex Collins, Rashard Penny, Allen Robinson. Weirdy's in that mix. Or Sony Michel. Neat 2: Myers and Robinson.
Yeah, I'm definitely starting Myers for sure, and Allen Robinson too. Yep, easy. Alex Collins and Rashard Penny each played 20 snaps. You don't want a part of that weird.
Yeah, Collins is still banged up again as well, and Sony Michel would only get a garbage time score maybe. PPR, have Schultz as a 5-week fill-in. Would you stick with him with Dak out? Conklin and Ingram are available if I need to pivot. I could also go Jared Cook, Dan Arnold. You probably hold on to Ingram, right, and play him if Dak is out, or do you play?
You know me, man. That's what I would do. I would say Schultz if Dak is playing, and then you have the luxury of going Ingram if Dak is out, so you can kind of wait until those late games. So that's what I would do. Ingram's in a good spot this week.
Yep. Have Nick Chubb, Devontae Booker, Durness as an RB2. Booker for sure.
Booker, yep.
Starting running back, play him. Need 2 in PPR: Mooney, Gage, Gainwell, Robbie Anderson, Khalif Raymond, T.Y. Hilton, Van Jefferson, Elijah Moore. A lot of options here. Need 2 for a flex.
Given the news, I'm starting Russell Gage.
Yeah.
And I think that
if T.Y. Hilton's active, I probably go.
They come. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. So if T.Y. Hilton plays,
go Gage and Hilton if he's active. If he's inactive, maybe Robbie Anderson.
Yes. Yeah. Anderson, sometimes you just got to take the targets. And I think T.Y. is not listed as the inactive list now, so I'd go there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. We had that out there. So Hilton's going to play. All right, so Hilton and Gage. I like that. Full PPR: Judy, Pittman, or Cooper?
I like Michael Pittman. He's been 100%. He's been solid, yeah.
Yep. PPR, I think Tony goes this week. He should. If not, Waddle, Collins, or Carter in your flex. I do like Michael Carter. I think you got to go Tony, though.
Yeah, Tony. He's just too exciting. He had 3 targets on 9 snaps before he got hurt.
Right. I have Dak. And Daniel Jones is not available. Do I play Wentz, Winston, or Ryan over him?
Man, I would have said Ryan until the recent news. I like Ryan.
Yeah, I think you're going to play Wentz. Again, I think Winston is great in DFS this week. I think there could potentially be a lot of pass volume in this one because we're expecting the Buccaneers to have a lead, but I think Wentz is probably the safer floor. So go Carson Wentz here. Full PPR need 2 for a flex. T. Higgins, Devonta Smith, Javonte Williams. He also has Melvin Gordon. Does that mean you're playing Melvin Gordon, or you're just also including him in the list? But it's a PPR. You need 2. I'm probably going to go the 2 receivers here, though.
2 receivers. Yep, lock that in. That's the easy one.
Half PPR, 1 wide receiver, 1 flex, and a defense. Pittman, Slayton, Judy, Gage, Gainwell. Need 2 of those guys, basically.
I can't trust Gainwell just yet. Or Judy. So I would go probably Pittman and Slayton. Yeah,
Pittman, Slayton is where I go as well. Need a defense. Philadelphia, Detroit, Washington. I mean, it's Minnesota if Cooper Rush is probably the quarterback. Right. I am actually playing Washington in DFS this week. While their secondary has been bad, they've really started to get after the quarterback of late. They actually picked off Patrick Mahomes twice a couple of weeks ago as well. Bridgewater is sort of starting to slide down a little bit. Philadelphia, I think, is the easy choice because it's Detroit. But now, but I think it's between Philadelphia and Washington for me. If we're assuming that Dak doesn't play.
Well, so if Dak doesn't play, you would start Minnesota?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So what I would do is just keep Washington in mind. That's at least a 4:25 game. News might break. That's still 4 hours from now. So it's a little closer to the night game. You might be able to slide them in there, but I would plan to start Minnesota and then slide in Washington if need be.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Let's see what else we got next down on the list here. Losing my spot. Ridley's out. We know that. Half PPR. Gibson, Darrell Williams, Chuba Hubbard, Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins, Marvin Jones. Half PPR. 1 running back and 1 flex.
Good God. I can't start.
Gibson was taken off of the injury report this week. I mean, which is throwing me for a loop because they said his shins were broken. And now all of a sudden they're like, no, not even listed on the injury report. We just saw Dearness Johnson run for 100 yards against Denver.
Yeah.
It's really throwing me off there.
Right. Yeah. The thing is with that is I honestly think that the situation is this. Gibson has the hairline fracture and it's a matter of, pain tolerance, right? Yep. So last week they were like, let's see if he can play or not. When they found out he could play, then then that was it. He's playing. So he's probably still hurting, but they just decided earlier in the week that, okay, he can play with this, so it's like,
I guess if he didn't miss any practice, they didn't need to list him on the injury report. So.
Right. I think that's what it is. So it's not, I don't think he's I doubt he's any healthier. Yeah. Any less hurt, but, so I'm not really, I don't love Gibson there. I think I like, Hubbard and it's Waddle or Higgins really for me. What do you think, John?
Yeah, Chuba's fine for me. I'm kind of going Marvin Jones. I think I'm going to go Marvin Jones.
Yeah, he's been pretty consistent.
100 in the score before the bye, coming out of a bye against Seattle. So I'm going to go Marvin Jones and Chuba Hubbard for me.
Hold on.
DK, yep. DK, GDP, flex. Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, Deontay Johnson. All of those guys are just top tier plays this week. Knowing that Jamal Williams is out, though, I'm going to go DeAndre Swift, I think.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. I mean, Swift, he's getting so many targets. That's the thing. Targets are king for running back, especially on DraftKings, which is full PPR. Yahoo is half PPR, so maybe not not there.
And knowing that Williams got 12 carries last week and he's gone, those carries go to Swift this week. So, and on the DeAndre Swift. And Coop, that's it. It's 12 o'clock and we answered all the questions. Everything is out already. I'll be going in and making some updates to the example lineups regarding the Ridley news, just kind of updating some notes there. But if you have any questions, continue to throw them in the NFL Discord channel. Our guys are in there answering you guys to get ready up till lineup lock. But for now, for Coop, we will catch you guys next week.
Cheers.